I don't know what I did now. Let me start again. Uh, Hi, Bruce. Welcome.
Louise.
Okay, before we start, I just want to warn our audience that this may not be a technologically slick performance this time because our internet is severely impacted by South African load shedding. And unless you know what it is, you can't understand the horrors that it means for internet connections. So I have put us on hotspot now, and hopefully my hotspot's going to work better than my actual internet. And please, everybody, forgive us. If we go off, I will try and come back. Just be patient because Bruce Anderson is an expert in all the childhood trauma and good enough stuff that we struggle with, and he has absolutely amazing insights to share with us. So please be patient and let's try and get everything that we possibly can from Bruce. How's that, Bruce? Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, so I want to just start with an excerpt from your chapter of our new book, Talk, Trust, Feel. And I'm blown away by it. I don't get blown away easily. I'm
Mhm.
blown away by it. It is absolutely awesome stuff. You know, I go through it and I try and select a few um, phrases or paragraphs that I can use as excerpts to tell people what it's all about. And there was so many gems that I didn't know which ones to take and which to leave. But tonight, I would love it if we can talk a little bit more about this. So let me go there. Right. Right. The road to happiness is to satisfaction, to a sense of personal success, to a sense of personal freedom. They are all achievable, doing nothing more than focusing on what we want, on what is right, on what we're grateful for, on what we have, and the direction we want to take. Okay, so, oh, wait, go back. Go back there. There you go. So, yes, I mean, I love this, and I want you to elaborate a little bit more because this is all about what we habitually focus on instead of what we need to focus on in order to be happy.
Right. So the way I sort of introduce this topic is that as thousands of times a day, we make a choice deep inside of our minds, uh, and most of the time the choice is unconscious. And the choice we make is, how do we direct our attention? We can direct our attention to what we want, and that includes to what's right, to what we're grateful for, to what we've accomplished, and so on. Or we can direct our attention to basically to what's wrong, to what we want to avoid, to what we don't want. Now, my whole book, Beyond Good Enough, starts off by looking at desire, what we want. And the reason for that is most of us don't have a really clear notion of what we want.
Mm.
So the back to the quote, we make these decisions thousands of times a day as we go through the day. And what I've discovered over the past umpteen years of working with people and counseling and hypnotherapy and so on is that those people who focus on what's wrong, on what they don't want, it's kind of like, and by that I mean the preponderance of those choices. Since there's tens of thousands in a day, sure, you drop a plate on the floor, and for a couple of seconds, you're going to be focused on what's wrong. Damn, I didn't
Yes.
mean to drop that plate. And now it's a mess to clean up. But when you switch back to saying, okay, I want a clean kitchen floor. I don't want this mess. I'd better go clean it up and put yourself to work, and boom. What I realized in my research is that the prime difference between people who call it achieve the ultimate mindset that we want, which is some combination, and depending on the words we like to use, of happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, success, being complete. There are lots of words, but they all refer to what I put in the category of a mindset. That's the ultimate destination that we all seem to want. And the fuel, the energy to get us there is simply this matter of focusing on what we want. Now, when I had this insight, my brain rejected it. Said it was like, well, wait a minute, no, there's got to be, I'll use weasel words like, if you do this, you're most of the way there. But over the time that I've been working with this, I have been unable to find, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I have been unable to find anything that's missing from that. So that the theme that I'm presenting, and as I'm tuned to it, my reticular activating system keeps noticing other people saying the equivalent. Focus on what you want. And when we focus on what's wrong, on what we don't want, it's very much like trying to drive a car or a bicycle facing backwards. We have no idea where we're going, but we know what we want to get away from.
Yeah,
And
it's really the story of my life, Bruce, because I was deeply unhappy waiting for somebody to change. I knew that somebody had to change in order for me to be happy. I didn't know that I could be happy
right,
just by
yes,
focusing on, and that like literally has been the biggest change in my life, to
yeah.
change my focus away from what I didn't want to
Well,
what
the
I could
yeah,
create.
one of the core themes of desire, of what do we want, the way I describe it, there are basically two qualities that have to be in the way you state a desire for it to be, I use a mathematical term, well formed. One, it has to be stated in the positive. And that's more subtle than just using positive words. It has to focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. That's item one. Item two is, and your comment twigged this one. It has to be under, if it's for me, it has to be under my control. And waiting for someone else to change is not under my control.
And
So that,
yet, thousands of people live like that.
yeah. And,
Millions, let me edit
yeah,
that. The
yeah.
majority of people.
And the reality is it doesn't work. That it's like when people come and talk to me about relationship stuff, or social anxiety or a whole lot of things. Often that comes around about the fifth or sixth hypnosis session where they start talking about what they really want. Oh, could you help me? Like, I'm kind of uncomfortable talking to girls and things. Um, so, oh, sure, I can help you with that. The core question, and it's often not even verbalized, is how do I make Susie or Bob fall in love with me? And I say, well, there's good news and there's bad news. And the bad news is that you can't, ever. You can never make someone fall in love with you. What you can do is change yourself so that you're easy to fall in love with.
Mm.
And, the reality is that even though you're focused on Susie or Bob at the moment, that may not be the person you end up with. And that's part of accepting who you are and accepting what the universe provides us to live in. And that's part of that it all fits together in this focusing more consistently on what we want and what we don't want.
Yeah, so this is there's so much neuro science about all of these things nowadays. Dr. Rick Hansen calls this the inclining the mind towards the positive. And that whole negativity bias that we had because we had to focus on the bad in order to survive, because otherwise you'd be sitting here, hey, tiger, tiger, come and eat me. So
Yes.
we had to know to notice it and get up and run and fight. And
Yeah.
so we are daily walking around with our inherited patterns of how our ancestors used to have to survive, and we don't need it anymore.
That's true. And I just within the last couple of days worked with a client where I reminded her that if she's focusing on what's wrong uh, throughout her day, she is going to come across to literally transmit, for people who like the concept of sending out vibrations, she is going to be transmitting the vibrations of a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people out there who are looking for victims to take advantage of, whether it's molesting people, robbing them, whatever. There are lots of people and they all have their own bad things that they specialize in. But the reality is that if we consistently focus on what's wrong, what we don't want, we transmit this vibe of victim. It's like waving a big flag. Hi there, I'm a victim. Come take advantage of me. Whereas if we're focusing on what we want, literally our posture changes, our the sense of energy around a person changes. Like I can not with 100% accuracy, but I can fairly well just look at someone and tell whether they're focusing right now on what's wrong or on what they want. They come across, I said, yeah, now you're focusing on what you want. I can feel it. So, and so that's a very up to date version of the saber-toothed tiger story. And
Yeah.
this woman said, oh my God, you're right. Because I've noticed when I'm focusing on what I don't want, it seems to happen.
Yeah, that's true. I want to quickly check with our audience if they are experiencing any lag, because I can see a little bit of lag. I don't think it's bad, but I just want to check with our audience if. And I just want to say for everybody, we're really sorry. We are having internet problems because of African internet and the interesting phenomenon of load shedding. So, please bear with us. We're trying our best to to stay online. Okay, so yeah, so for me, that victimhood thing is a very important thing to bring out. And I mean, I like, your example of a guy, Susie must fall in love with me. It is coming from a powerless place, and when you step into your power, and stepping into your power means there's something that you can do. So all of a sudden, instead of waiting for somebody, or instead of feeling beholden, you step into a place of power because you've got something to do. You can now focus on what you want. And once you know what you want, well, that is another problem, right? You can actually figure out the steps of how to create it. And then you are an empowered person. And I think that is when Susie's going to be falling in love, right?
Right, right. And in fact, in my book, I devote in the Beyond Good Enough book, I devote 2 full chapters to desire. And throughout the book, I sprinkle stories of people who thought they understood what they want, but hadn't actually got it figured out yet, and how that leads them astray later on. But
Yeah, sorry, carry
go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
It ties in with adult child syndrome work that I do. You first got to really grow yourself up, because all of this unconsciousness is going on your 7-year-old or your 12-year-old. And then once you actually realize it and you become conscious of your own life, you can now start growing yourself up to your actual age, and and be that person, the one who is forming their own outlooks and finding better tools than the 7-year-old. Because the
Right.
7-year-old tools are generally based in powerlessness and a lot of hurt and trauma that comes with it.
Yeah, because when you're 7, well, when you're an infant, and even up until early teen years, uh, we're uh, powerless. We are. Any full-grown adult can easily overpower us. So
Well, thanks. Yeah, I just want to check here quickly. Antoinette says all sound good. Thanks, Antoinette, for letting us know. Sorry, Richard, carry on. So our minds
right,
are at ease now. Ease. Yeah.
yeah. So um, stepping out of that victim mode,
Mm.
the the first step towards shifting our focus, or the preponderance of our focus, from what's wrong to what we want, starts with figuring out what we want.
Yes.
And I recognize that if we start looking at the entirety of our life and try to figure out what we want, uh, that's a wonderful recipe for overwhelm
Yes.
and putting on the brakes and coming to an absolute and utter halt. I can't handle this. It's too much.
Mm.
I just can't deal with it. It happens to me. So the first step that we do is pick a very narrow area of life. The narrower, the better.
Mm.
Where whether it's eat more vegetables, or exercise a little more, or learn to notice and speak some appreciation to our spouse more often. Whatever it is, just pick a very narrow area and start with the phrase, um, I want to be good enough at noticing or paying attention, being appreciative of my spouse, something like that. And whatever the narrow niche is. Um, and when we do that, we can ask, okay, if I were good enough, whatever that means to you, and this varies totally by individual and over time, if I were good enough at giving my spouse appreciation, what would that look like? What would I be able to do, feel, think, say that I can't do today, or I'm reluctant to do, or I don't do often enough? So that gives you another list. And you say for each one of those, then you've got, because I talk about what I want as a cluster of things that are all intertwined and interrelated. It may be, okay, I need to pay more attention to how I feel and what's going on, and notice when she's going out of her way to do something. Oh, that would be a good, or to do something related to me. Oh, that would be a wonderful time to show some appreciation. And then there's noticing, being mindful of what kind of appreciation she appreciates. This is, or she understands. This is back to the 5 love languages stuff, which I recommend to everybody. Does she receive appreciation as a gift, as a kind word, as a hug? How does it work for her? What does she receive best? And so there may be a series of desires in there that all relate to this one thing about, I want to be better at appreciating my spouse. Then we go down to there. Okay, suppose we've got this thing about, I want to present my appreciation in a form that she will understand and recognize as appreciation. Okay, do I know how to do that? Do I know what she understands? That might take some discussion and so on. It might take some practice to be able to do that. But with a little work at it, it's usually that sort of thing is usually straightforward. Where it gets complicated is there are things that we get. It's that old theme. If you loved me, you wouldn't have to ask. If you
Oh,
really
yes,
loved
mind
me, I
reading.
wouldn't have to ask. Yeah, that's
Mind
silly.
reading.
Yeah. So
Or wishful thinking. Or osmosis. None of them work.
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't work. So we need to go in and find out exactly what. And there may be things, for example, with desire, where one of the obstacles to desire is permission. I'm not allowed to want that. Now, whether it's your inner parent or some message that you got from a movie that you watched, or all of your friends are saying it, doesn't really matter. But it's a frequent occurrence with where we want something but aren't able to get it. That notion of permission is big. So what I have found in working with people on this, and this again is still part of focus on what we want. In order to do that, if there's a permission issue, digging into what we actually want, and we need to go a level below that and ask the question, okay, so I want X, and I feel like I don't have the right to do that. Like earn more money than my parents did, or that kind of thing. The way to get past that is to come up with the answer to the question, what do I have to believe that I don't believe now to get
I
past
love
this.
that. I want you to repeat that.
Yes. To when we've got something that relates to permission or anything related to desire, a question that I used to be asked when we were working on this desire, well, what do you want? They would ask, who do you have to be to get that? And
Mm,
for years, that question just didn't make sense to me. What are
mm.
you talking about? I'm me. Who else can I be? What a
Yes, I
dumb
agree
question.
with you.
What a dumb question. And I finally realized that it wasn't about being a different person. It was about operating from different beliefs. So the real question, and you know, people who were asking me that question weren't smart enough to recognize that I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. That they really meant, what do you have to believe? You know, I would have understood that. It's what the question, and this is a wonderful one to write down. It's, if I want to accomplish X, whatever X is, and I'm stuck on it, what do I need to believe? What must I believe
Amazing question.
that
It
I
is
do
the one
not
that we have to write
now?
down.
Yeah. What must I believe that I do not believe now? Because an accomplishment out in the real world is an accomplishment. You've either done it or you haven't.
Mm.
Beliefs, 99% of the time, if we're having difficulty accomplishing something, it's the belief in our head that stops us. So that question of what must I believe that I do not believe now to be able to accomplish this is critical.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's trivial to answer. Like, you know, what if I want a pepperoni pizza, it's okay. Well, I need to have enough money and a source of pizza and so on. So it's pretty easy to know that I've got it, and I don't really need much change of beliefs to get that. But bigger things often require a change in belief. Like, oh, I can take control of my own destiny. Because
Yeah.
the thing about the victim stuff, that's really a belief that I am not in charge of my destiny. The outside world is, or some particular people or group in the outside world are in charge. And I
It's what
don't
I
have a say.
call it's
Go
what I
ahead.
call um, letting the 7-year-old drive the car. So the belief system of a 7-year-old or a 12-year-old is still sitting with us. And because we have not asked the critical questions, um, not knowing most of the time that we have the power to change our destiny, we focus on what we want different. To recap, we don't focus on what we want. When we focus on what we want, we're overwhelmed, we don't know where to start. And then we have to eat the elephant with a
Right.
teaspoon. And then, if we have an invisible block, it could be our own belief system, which means the 7-year-old is still driving the car.
Yeah, exactly. And there's really two kinds of things that I've found. They're closely related that block us from desire. One is the permission, and ultimately permission comes from within ourselves, always. But it may be some inner manifestation of our memories of a parent or some important person. The other one, the permission, the other one is, this doesn't apply to me. You know, oh, Louise can write lots of books and appear on lovely broadcasts and stuff like that and speak fluently about all sorts of topics, but I could never do that.
Mm.
So it doesn't apply to me is the other one. And the question then is, okay, what do you need to believe to step past that. And the core belief is almost always, I need to believe that I can take control of my destiny. The rest, if you switch that one, the rest sort of follow in suit.
Yeah, 100%. You
And
have to know, you've got to know you're an adult with a voice and a choice.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
a surprising amount of people don't know that.
Yeah. Oh, I can do that? And that's yeah, that's the permission thing. Because as a 7-year-old, we don't have permission to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at this another piece that I've highlighted there. Okay, let me just get Muffin to move. I'm not wanting to move Muffin tonight because it's very cold. Well, tonight here.
Oh,
So Muffin
mhm.
must sit today. She must keep me nice and warm. Okay, so let's read this other piece. When you master the art of focusing on what you want, you are happy. So I want us to talk about happiness. It is as though
Okay.
the very definition of happiness and confidence, comfort, etc., is focusing on what you want. As though focusing the majority of your energy on attention and attention on what you want creates happiness. We're all
Yeah.
looking for happiness, right?
Yeah. Happiness or confidence or success or whatever words we use to describe it. Um, this is the one that kind of blew me away. Um, I have no theory about why this is so. If I were an academic, I'd be busy writing papers about making stuff up and so on. And I've lived in that world and have left. So, I don't pretend to understand why this works, but I make the observation that people who focus mostly on what they want are happy. And people who are not happy tend, I haven't worked intimately enough with enough thousands of people to say this is universal. And I'd be suspicious of even a survey that went out where people checked boxes. It's too simplistic.
Yeah.
But my findings, my observations in the world are that focusing on what we want and being happy go hand in hand. And it's as though, and again, when I first came to this realization, my brain said, well, wait a minute, no, it can't be that simple. Well, at the moment, I'm of the mind that, well, maybe it is that simple, because
I think it is.
focusing on what we want and recognizing that we have control of our destiny, that we are the person who makes the decisions. There was a
It's
there was a
very
great
simple.
yeah,
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 it's really very simple. If you're not in that place where you focus on what you can do, you are in victimhood. And when you're in victimhood, you're not happy. I have to find somebody in victimhood who's happy, because you are in a constant state of dissatisfaction. You are not satisfied with things. And it's really hard to be happy if you're constantly dissatisfied. So the minute when you take that power and you understand that you have been the victim of your own thought processes and you can
right,
now change it, you become an empowered individual. And
yeah,
I know it's a process. I mean, it's not like an instant, I'm just happy, it's a process. Because first of all, we've got to unlearn all these learned behaviors and belief sets. So we have to settle into our new selves. And but once you start adding the the actions and belief sets that has the ability to change you into an empowered, self-empowered human being, and you feel that beautiful thing of, I do have a voice, I do have a choice, I can be effective in my own life and also in other people's lives. It's a beautiful, amazing transformation. So I agree with you 100%. And
Yeah, yeah. And
I'll double dare anybody to be happy if your butt is sitting in victimhood. It's impossible.
yes, and
And nobody will ever make you happy.
the fascinating thing, and the way I work is that's why I have people choosing a very, very narrow niche to start with, because it's just this one little thing. Let's let the camel get his nose underneath the edge of the tent, and life will take things from there. Once your unconscious mind understands in this very, very narrow context that you can do it, your unconscious starts to take over and say, oh, if she can do it there, I wonder if she could do it here and here and here and here. And how about everywhere?
Yeah.
So
It's
that's, yeah. And,
yeah.
working.
Because self-belief in all areas is a step upon success and a step upon success and a step upon success. You believe a little bit that you're good enough and you try it. And when you have people reacting to you differently, suddenly it feels like you're good enough and you're astonished. And then you realize, but I've been good enough all along. And then you try a little bit of self-worth and you add that in and you try to start saying things that you feared saying before, because not everybody's going to abandon you. So and you brave, you brave and you build, and you brave and you build, but you've got to start somewhere. This is an
Exactly.
amazing place to start, just
And
by focusing on the
yeah,
positive.
and that's one of the wonderful things about hypnotic work, because when I'm working with someone in trance, I can create positive experiences that they can use as reference.
Mm.
So and in fact, that's why stories are so powerful. In fact, there's one um, very strong theory that language was invented to tell stories.
Mm.
That's the reason language exists. That hunting parties could go out and they could do arm waving and grunts to get most of the coordination that they needed, but to tell stories, they needed to invent language. And
I'm pretty sure somebody invented language so that they can tell another person how they must change so that that person can be happy.
well, the art of storytelling throughout history, um, part of it was sharing news, part of it was sharing ideas, but the real power of a shaman, of a wandering storyteller, was personal change.
Mm.
They would work with, literally, by telling a story with various people in the room, noticing how they were responding, and weave things into their stories that would allow that person to achieve that some insight that they needed.
Much like you are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
okay,
And
so Richard, let me see if I've got a screenshot of our book that we are doing. I have just today. Okay, well, there is the image. Talk to us, feel.
mhm,
So, this book, I mean, and everybody that I've talked to has been selected so that they can be people who can help people heal faster. So,
right.
and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because I know that hypnosis is a way in which you can get to the amygdala, the subconscious mind, much easier. A lot of the work that I do is um, changing through logic the belief system, really getting a deep understanding of yourself, and then learning that you've got choices and then making those choices. So a lot of it is on the ground. You've got to do it. You've got to push through it. You've got to change it. But hypnosis, EFT, neurofeedback, all of those ones are faster ways than saying the
Right.
affirmation 6 times a day. Not that it doesn't work. It's like amazing to do the affirmation. You figure out, wow, it actually really helped. But you're just doing it in such a faster way. And this is what we want people to have. We want them to have a faster, more effective, science-backed way in which people can shift
Mhm.
the belief systems and remove the blocks that we have really created in order to keep ourselves safe in childhood.
Exactly. And hypnosis offers ways of accessing, call it um, opening our
Mm,
unconscious minds
mm,
in ways that most of us don't have experience with, or I should say, most of us think we don't have experience with. If you're reading a powerful book and you really get into it to the point where if something scary happens in the next paragraph, you jump a little bit,
yes.
you are in trance. That
Yeah.
is hypnosis. If you're watching a movie and you feel like you're not not taking part in whatever drama is happening, but right there as a firsthand observer, like a reporter being in the same room with while this is happening. When you feel that, you are in trance. And the director of the movie and the actors have done a splendid job, because that's the goal of good storytelling, is to draw you in to the point where the experience is vividly real. And literally, that's all most of hypnosis
Yeah.
is creating experiences that are vividly real. When I work with someone, I think of it in terms of, okay, what resources, where resources may be a belief, an experience, and so on, does this person need to make the next step, to move on to whatever they need to next? And I will work to take them through vividly real experiences that in which they in such a way that they cannot have that vividly real experience without bringing along whatever resource they need. If it's some form of confidence about taking charge of their own life, I will create an experience where that's exactly what they do.
Okay, so in this chapter of yours that I've been so blown away with, there's an exercise. We're not
Yes.
going to tell people the exercise, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I want you to buy the book because it will be your absolute best investment ever. Because it's not just Bruce's amazing techniques; it's a lot of people. But if you only buy it for that one technique, then you have an absolute super technique. And I'm going to ask you the next time when we have another rerun of the Talk Trust Feel Summit,
Hmm.
if you will come on live and
Sure.
have somebody in the audience that you can walk through that process and anybody can participate if they want. How's that?
Love to.
Okay, so we're not going to tell people what it is, right? We can, okay, right. And I honestly have to tell you that that is, we're scared of our feelings. We're scared of going through trauma. We try and avoid it at all costs. And that technique helps you to go through it. It helps you. I say to people, tough luck. It's terrible. You just have to go through it. I'm sorry for you. I love you. I would love to do this for you, but I was like, no ways I can do for you. You're going to be having some trauma for some time coming. This changes it dramatically.
Yep.
This creates a real change and fast. It's
That's
amazing.
right.
I'm not going to tell people what it is. We're going to, we have to buy the book.
Maintain the suspense.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like you tell this here to a few people. I want people to have a book in their hands so they can underline it
Yes.
and and really go through it and have it as a resource. And they know somebody else is going through pain. They want to say, I know what you need to read. You have to go there. That. And
Right.
yeah, it's extremely powerful. So I know you're all going to forgive me, but I am going to bring you back for sure, Bruce, for that.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
I I published the book today. I I made a mess before, and then I had to unpublish it. But I uploaded the wrong manuscript, and they blocked me. So I fix it today, and it should be live tomorrow for pre-order. But we will in the end tell everybody when it's live, and
Right.
everybody can get this book. It's a really good book, so very excited
Okay.
about it.
Excellent.
Okay, and all right, so I think we just want to say to everybody that you can be happy. You can be happy. You can start getting happy as of today. And if you are going through really big trauma, um, that fear of feeling that feeling, right? You can actually
Right.
change it. And
Yes.
we'll do another session, and we'll walk
Okay.
with you.
Wonderful.
Okay. If you have to give a last bit of advice to people who had a hard upbringing and they feel very stuck and very reactive about things, or they need to control their lives a lot, um, what what would you say to me? Wait, check
The
here.
first, uh, the first thing is to simply start being mindful. Now, the the mechanics of change, whatever change we do, has two steps. Step one is be mindful of what's happening. So if there's something that you're doing that you want to change, you can't change it until you're mindful of when you're doing it and how it works. So simply be mindful, start being mindful. Mindful isn't an all or nothing, it's you get more and more mindful. Simply start noticing where your attention is going. Because the way attention works is that when we pay attention to one thing, we block out everything else. And literally, the wiring in our brain allows us to do that. It's an important survival skill. But the consequence of focusing on what's wrong is that you lose awareness of what's right. You lose awareness of what we want. So simply, if all you do is start noticing, oh, am I paying attention to what's wrong? Oh, for heaven's sakes, I am. Goodness. Oh, there, I just paid attention to what I want. Cool. I like that. And just notice. Let your unconscious mind handle the rest. Just start noticing.
Yeah, you become present in your own life for a change.
Yeah. And that you can start doing right now.
I love it. Okay, so I just want to, okay, anybody have any questions? You can still ask questions. Um, I'm going to quickly answer Antoinette here. Antoinette's not my friend anymore, but you'll be my friend again tomorrow, I promise you. Okay, Antoinette, so this is the thing, is where this is a subject by itself. I don't want to have it here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, where most of the audience are coming in afterwards. I want, for this particular technique, I want to set up a link where people can book and contact Bruce before the time and say, this is me, and will you take me as a participant to walk through this procedure? So I want to do it right. I want to give it the attention that it really
Right.
deserves. This is not the forum for it. This is going to help everybody best if we do it live, I think, Bruce. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. So that is why we've covered some really big key concepts that are big enough in itself to change something. And it's a different situation. It is you can get through your feelings, but you can also, everybody's empowered as of today to become more happy. Okay,
We have a happy face.
there's a happy faces. Okay, right. Okay, so any more questions from anyone? Right. Okay, guys. Thank you, Antoinette and Elise, for the hearts. Keep on giving us hearts. We like the hearts. And yeah, I know you were joking. I know you were joking. um, and share, comment, because Facebook likes it if people share and comment, because then we show it to more people, which we really want them to do. And remember, next week I'm back with Tiny Seeds again. And I think that's it from me, right? Please, thank you. It's a big pleasure. Okay. Oh, there's more hearts. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks. So everybody, remember, I love those hearts. Make me happy. I'm focusing on the positive, on the hearts. Not on the people who moan to net. Right. All right. So thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Always glad.
Amazing chapter.
Good.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, guys. Lots of love to all. See you next week. And also love to everybody who's coming in for the rewatch.